Prasun Basu, President South Asia Nielsen Holding, is now joining us. So thank you so much for taking out time for us. If you could just tell us that, what is the sense that you make of the consumption momentum in India, especially after demonetisation? Have you seen things getting back to normal?
I think the demonetisation impact was a short-lived impact. It was there for a couple of months. It came in the middle of November. It stayed on till December. I think already in January it is going down. And two things. One is our consumer confidence study came out, and it showed that the fourth quarter consumer confidence was high overall in the fourth quarter. It is a good time of the year, festive season and all of that stuff. We were coming out of a very good set of monsoons, so there was a robustness in the market and the economy over August, September, October. And I think that overall sentiment, along with good monsoons and buoyant results, actually help consumers stay confident. So we did not see a drop in consumer confidence in the fourth quarter per se. So that's on the confidence story.
As far as Indian markets are concerned, for the last 15 years, there has been constant growth in the market. Do you believe that that would continue? Still, there is a lot of penetration benefits which can come in for the consumption sector?
I would say no. So I think there's a little bit of a story. So the overall consumer spends are growing, and they're growing at double digit, and we definitely anticipate that to grow in double digit. Because there is both the expansion of the economy of the country. If you look at GDP forecasts are pretty good for the next many years, next 5-10 years, and we are seeing a lot of empowerment and impact of digitization that's coming in. So consumers are getting more connected, they're asking for more, they want more, their spending habits are changing and going up. Some of our work shows that they might not be saving as much as they were saving earlier. So that extra share of their wallet that's coming into consumption is definitely helping, along with the overall growth of the country. So I don't see this slowing down. There's an important point on FMCG versus other sectors. The other sectors are growing faster than FMCG is growing. And you can see clear double-digit growth and high double-digit growth in a lot of the sectors, especially technology sectors and entertainment and so on and so forth. We are seeing today single-digit, but good single-digit growth in the FMCG sector. I would not be surprised if that went back up to the earlier times where we used to have double-digit growth. I would not be surprised if we see double-digit growth starting to come in the FMCG sector as well.
Which sectors are growing? Are you seeing growth in durables versus the traditional FMCG space?
Well, I think overall durables as a sector is growing. Obviously, depending on how you classify, the obvious answer is in the mobile devices and smartphones and tablets and all of that stuff. That growth is high. There is anywhere between 30%. I think currently smartphone growth is around 30%. Tablets are growing in double digit. So those are clearly growing. The white goods are also growing. So while there has been an impact on them at demonetization stage, now that we are coming out of that effect in 2017, I don't think you're going to see a permanent drift in terms of the growth in the durable sector, though there has been an impact in the immediate period post demonetization.
Do you see uptrading in India continuing till now? Any company which has launched anything has launched in the premium segment. Do you think that uptrading would continue?
Yes, absolutely. There is many examples of premiumization that we are finding in the FMCG sector. If you start the dialogue, I will be able to tell you many brands across companies, all kinds of companies in personal care and in foods. We are seeing the trends in both, and not just the big FMCG players, even the medium-sized FMCG players who are either Indian companies or global companies are driving great premiumization stories. One category where we've had an incredible story in the last 5-8 years is the biscuits category, right? It used to be a very commoditized, low margin, low price kind of a category. See where the biscuits category has gone, and it's actually shown value growth to be far higher than volume growth. So in the last 10 years, the volume growth of biscuits category has only been around 9%. Value growth has been around 14-15%. So a clear story of premiumization. And if you look at the cookies and the different variants of biscuits and other formats that have come in, it's really powered up the growth. Same thing in chocolates, for example, you'll find it. Same thing in high-end skincare. So there are many pockets where you're finding premiumization is working very well.
In terms of the environment that we are currently now, low interest rate environment, better growth outlook expected, do you think consumption is at a cusp of a growth?
There is nothing that tells me that there'll be a drastic growth in consumption. The consumptions have been very buoyant. See, one of the things we'll have to keep in mind is India anyway is in a buoyant place, right? So it's not that it was in a low growth phase and hence it can step up in a very, high manner. The question is that it was in a high growth phase. It looks like it will remain in a high growth space, which is anyway one of the best in the world today.
Right. What are the risk factors to this consumption? Do you believe job security is one of the key things for this consumption space?
I guess we have to be careful that consumers are balancing out their wealth in terms of the various buckets. And overall, I don't know consumption will go down, but there is obviously the economy is opening up, consumers are opening up to the how consumption patterns and spend patterns have been in other parts of the world, in particular the Western world, and we have seen phases where the ratio of savings to consumption has been skewed. I guess consumers in India would perhaps be careful about that skew, and if the consumption patterns go too high, it could create a bit of a short-term risk. But there is good pull from consumers, and the good thing is that the manufacturers and marketers are catering to the consumer needs today. So I think it's going to be a good place.
Mr. Basu, thank you so much for taking out time for us. Always good to get a perspective.